Hello and welcome to the Be Encouraged, Be Inspired podcast with me, Kumbi Ayo Okonawon. My mission is to encourage and inspire you, and I'll be doing this through the Word of God from the Christian Bible and through life experiences to cheer you on, motivate you, and support you. Thank you so much for joining me today. Hey, it's another episode of the Be Encouraged, Be Inspired podcast with me, Kumbi. A new episode is published every Monday that includes words of encouragement or inspiration and prayer to uplift your spirit man and to spur you on. I hope you are keeping well. As we all know, there is so much going on in the world right now, and it can sometimes be confusing at knowing what to pray. And I have found that the Christian charity Open Doors have a great resource in terms of prayer points for different countries, different groups or different individuals. So if you have a burden to pray for the nations around us, or you're in search of prayer points to pray, I have linked the Open Doors prayer resource webpage in the info box below for you to easily access it. Let us continue to pray for our world and pray for God to heal our lands. So in this prayer moments episode, I want to encourage you from the book of Luke chapter 15 from verse 11 to 24. And I'm going to read from there, and I'm reading from the ESV version of the Bible. So Luke chapter 15 from verse 11 says, "And he said, there was a man who had 2 sons. And the younger of them said to his father, 'Father, give me the share of property that is coming to me.' And he divided his property between them. Not many days later, the young son gathered all he had and took a journey into a far country. And there he squandered his property in reckless living. And when he had spent everything, a severe famine arose in that country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him into his fields to feed pigs. And he was longing to be fed with the pods that the pigs ate, and no one gave him anything. But when he came to himself, he said, 'How many of my father's hired servants have more than enough bread, but I perish here with hunger? I will arise and go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me as one of your hired servants.' And he arose and came to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and felt compassion and ran and embraced him and kissed him. And the son said to the father, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his servants, 'Bring quickly the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and shoes on his feet, and bring the fattened calf and kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. For this my son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' And they began to celebrate." If we circle back to verse 20, it says, "And he arose and came to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and felt compassion and ran and embraced him and kissed him." There's story after story in the Bible of how God sees our relationship with him. And one of these is with the prodigal son in Luke chapter 15. Apparently, back in those days, it was the custom to perform a ceremony when someone didn't act honorably, like the prodigal son did. This was the way the people let the offending party, in this case the prodigal son, know that they were done with them. Essentially, the offender was no longer welcome in town. So the people watching the prodigal son's father that day must have been waiting, like, yep, let's do this. So they're all prepared to see one of those ceremonies take place. But the father ran to his son, welcoming him back with open arms, putting an end to the idea that anything could stop his love for his child. So, in this fairly short episode, I want to encourage you that no matter how far you've gone or what you've done, you will always be welcomed home by God. God is always waiting with open arms for you so he can wrap you in his arms and say, bring quickly the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and shoes on his feet, and bring the fattened calf and kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. For this my child was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. Heavenly Father, I want to thank you so much for your love for us. You tell us to come boldly before you. You say that our needs are met in you and that you're always waiting with open arms to welcome us back to you. Father, help us to remember that no matter how far we have strayed from you, we can come back home, that we can run to your outstretched arms. We thank you, Lord. We are so grateful and we are so thankful. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. If you are yet to subscribe to the podcast, please make sure you do. I would be so grateful. Thank you so much. And I will catch you next week on another episode of the Be Encouraged, Be Inspired podcast. Take care. God bless. Bye.